made of three words: Puri, Krishna, and Rama. Now these are all different names of God. It's one God, but he has millions, unlimited numbers of names. Even Jesus, Allah, these are all different names of God. Don't want to work?
I think this one's better. That's what Russ wants to.
So we're gonna chant this, and we're gonna put this in the right
What's the name of the sixth
consciousness.
Organga.
Well, as I said, these vibrations, this is the mantra. It comes from this Veda, we mentioned in the Veda. And as I said, the Veda are higher knowledge than what we are aware of, come from a higher sphere than what we are aware of, and that we think we are participating in, but it is actually we are participating in that higher region, even though we may not be conscious of it. And by chanting the mantras, meditating on them, that come from the higher region, we can be transported to that region also by their power. The more encompassing nature. So you may not understand what you're doing, but if you do it, it will have its effect. Okay? It'll be a nice effect. You don't have to worry about it. Don't be scared of. So when we do this, the one person will say the mantra, and then we repeat it all together. And then we'll say again, then we repeat. Now there's one mantra, you see it on the wall, it's also on the back of that paper, that we chant first to invoke it, and invoke the proper blessings of the higher region. And that's pronounced by Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadha, Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. That might be a little hard to say, but if you just listen, you can also have it before. Then we'll chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Krishna. Hari Bol.
That's all right.
Would you like a chair? Do you understand before?
I can get you a chair if you'd like.
Oh, it's fine.
Okay.
Don't worry. Thank you, though.
You're Eon.
Yes.
Yes, you're Eon. Okay. Hare Krishna. I saw. We got your message. You learned about us from Google. Yes. I thought these couple was here from the Google, but I realized now you are the nice broadcast. Okay. I'm Madhava Puri. And what is your name?
Akshata.
Sita?
Akshada.
Huh?
Akshada.
Akshana.
Akshada.
Akshada.
Akshana.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming. You know something about Vedanta or Bhakti or
Very little.
little?
Very little. I've become very interested in it, I'd say, the past 4 months, exploring the concepts of non-duality.
What happened?
In the last 4 months, he's become interested in exploring the concept of non-duality.
Okay. Advaita.
Mm.
Mhm.
And you've been doing it on the internet mainly, right?
Yes, and we went to the Vedanta Society
Where is that?
in New York.
Okay.
Swami Sarva-Priyananda.
Where is it?
He went to Swami Sarva Priyananda in New York.
Vedanta
New York.
Society. Vedanta Society.
The Vedanta.
Yeah, Vedanta Society, New York.
Okay.
But I don't really know very much.
Good. So, in Vedanta, there is Advaita. Advaita means duality, and Advaita means the negation of duality. You know that? Advaita, like theist, you ever heard of, theist means a person who believes in God. An atheist or atheist is a person who denies the existence of God. He denies God. So when you put in front of a word in Veda, and in Sanskrit rather, it denies or negates the idea. So Advaita is actually the negation of Dvaita. That idea. So what is the negation of Dvaita? It's called ekatatva, monism, oneness. So the negation of duality or difference is sameness, oneness, sameness. Right? So, but the thing is this, some people emphasize Advaita or non-difference, but don't realize what they're saying is that there must be difference in order to have the negation of difference. That Advaita or oneness or sameness depends or is based upon difference and has the negation of difference. Okay? You can't have non-difference without difference being there first. But also, Advaita means Dvaita must be there in order to negate it. So you only reach oneness by the negation of difference. So the negation of difference is already implicit in oneness. It's always implicit. You can't have just oneness without the difference being negated. But what is the negation of difference? How does that manifest itself in our lives, or in our minds, or in our hearts, and souls? How does the negation of difference manifest itself? Now, this is where some confusion arises in the general society. Some people think the negation of difference is the annihilation of difference. That negation means annihilation. That all difference is finished, and you're left with only one. And that's a one-sided understanding of negation. Negation can also mean subjugation or sublation. Just as when we say tree. Tree is a universal idea. Every tree is a tree. When you look at a thing with branches and trunk, you say tree. But that tree that we're looking at, and the word tree, the idea of tree is applicable everywhere. So tree not only emphasizes the one thing, but also emphasizes the whole, the universal. Tree includes the universal and the singular individual within the same idea. Now, one thing that most people don't realize, and not only true for tree, is also true when we say I. You say, I am, me, own individual self. Now you know what? What do you call yourself when you talk about yourself? You say I. And you say I, and she says I. They all say I. And we all say I. Who are we talking about? I is both singular and universal. The idea. And that is universal. We mean our own individual self when we say I. But what we're uttering, what we're talking about, is actually something universal. Put this on so people hear us. This is being broadcast to the internet. So everything is like that. Everything is like that. By saying, what else can I say? Chair. Every chair is a chair. So it has both meanings. It has a universal meaning and has a singular meaning. Now, not everything is like that. In a sense, if I say, for instance, grape, a grape, well, every grape is a grape, right? But there's another word that includes not only grapes, but also all cherries and pears and peaches and plums. That's called fruit. Fruit. If I go to the store and say I want some fruit, and here's all the fruit. What is this? This is apple. I want fruit. I want that. But you can't say that. Apples, cherries, bananas, whatever they are, we call them all fruit. But sometimes there's a word that's universal and it doesn't even exist in this world. And we can't point to it, but it's all those things. Like another word like white. I say the walls are white and his clothes are white and his socks are white, whatever. That white is inclusive in all those things. The clouds are white, the picket fence is white, the snow is white. So white is common to all those things, but in a different way. And then if I say fruit, the picket fence could be blue, it could be gray. The cloud could also be gray or whatever. So that which is existing within the thing and it can't be taken away from it, that's a different kind of universal. It's called constitutional. Right. What constitutes a thing? A dog is an animal. Animals common to dogs, cats, and whatever. Right. But I can't take away animal from the dog and say, well, that's just a contingent, an extra thing an adjective that I add to the dog. I can't do that. Dog will not be a dog if it's not an animal. not like having a brown dog and a black dog or a white dog. Those things can be removed from the dog and it still be a dog. A white dog could also be a black dog, so forth. So there's things that are essential universals that are essential to the thing, and then universals that are only superficial, adjectives, additive in it. Those are which constitutive, and those which are adjectives. So the Advaita, the universal, the one that's in everything. And that's the universal, that's in everything, the same. So what are we all the same as? The I, you could say. But the I has both a universal and a particular, individual significance. And we are also, according to Veda, we are also spirit, Brahman. Brahman is the word in Sanskrit that means spirit. Some people interpret it as consciousness. Well, the consciousness, not exactly what we mean by Brahman. Consciousness has more to do with our identity with ourself, ahankara, or the false sense of this is the empirical self, which I think I'm a body, this body, a male, or a female, or a human being, or a dog, or whatever. That has consciousness has more to do with that kind of identity than with our spiritual identity. So the spiritual identity is called spirit, Brahman. That oneness is there in us. We are all part of that spiritual identity. We have that in us. And you can't be a conscious being if you don't have spirit. Spirit means you have consciousness. That's the nature of spirit. It's aware of itself. Matter, not aware of itself. It needs a consciousness to be aware of it. But if you are spirit, then you can be aware of yourself. Spirit can be aware of itself and is therefore conscious. So Vedanta is the study of these higher things. That's consciousness and awareness. What science is doing today, they're not studying consciousness. They're studying the objects of consciousness. And they don't know what consciousness is. Those who study the brain and the neurons, those are not consciousness. Those are the things we are conscious of. Those are objects of consciousness. A neuron can't produce consciousness. Or a whole bunch of neurons can't produce consciousness. That what consciousness is already aware of. You have to have consciousness in order to say neuron. Then how can neuron produce consciousness? Confusion. So Bhagavad Gita makes this very clear. What is that verse?
Which one?
Tehino?
Dehinosmin yatha dehe kumaram yovanam jara yatha dehantaras praptir chiras tatra namoyate.
Dehinosmin yatha dehe. Who is in the body? The embodied. Who is in the body? Who is embodied? That person who is embodied should understand that at one time you had a body that was this big. Where's that body? That baby body. Where is it? No longer here. Yet you are still here. When you were born, your mother called you, what is your name again? Akshata? Akshakanda. Aksha.
Akshad.
Huh?
Akshad.
Akshada. My mother called you Akshada. Where is that Akshada? Where is she gone? Now everybody is here. And you're still Akshada. So where's that Akshada? Is that this Akshada or is that this one? And it's explaining that when the embodied soul passes from childhood to youth to old age, he should understand. He can't be those different bodies. He's not those bodies. His identity is something more than that. It remains unchanged within the different bodies. This is exactly taking those things yatha dehe. Komara vyovanam jara means childhood, youth, and old age. Then what does it say?
Tata dehantaras praptir.
Deha tarantara praptir. Tiras tatarumuyate. sober. Dhira means very sober. A sober person who is not intoxicated with so many different enticements in this world. One who's not intoxicated by all the enticements and allurements of this world, he can understand, wait a minute, who am I? If I'm not this body is related to all these different things, and these different things are related to this body, but if I'm not the body, then what? What am I being enticed by? Why am I being enticed by them? Is it the right thing for me to be doing, or what should I really be, that identity, that soul, be doing? What is his position? What is his activities? What is his real concern? That's called dhira. Dhira means sober, very aloof from everything that's going around him, and aware of something more subtle. What is that? He wants to understand that. That's second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Then from there it only builds up into the higher realm. Understand the higher thing. So, Vedanta means understanding these things. Vedanta. Veda actually means knowledge, and Anta means the goal or end of knowledge. People go to school for so many years to learn this, that, and the other thing. But if you ask them, what is knowledge for? In other words, what is the end? What are you studying? What are you trying to know? And, well, I want to know how to do this and how to do that and how to make money and how to build a rocket ship, and all these things. I said, but when does that end? What is the end of that? Is it to build a rocket ship, to make money? What is the end of knowledge? To be happy? Is there an end to knowledge? Or does it just keep going on and on and on and on and on? Huh? Is there some conclusion that we're supposed to reach?
Isn't that called mental speculative?
Whatever. We're just going, knowledge that doesn't seem to have any, we never know, or never told us, we're never told what the goal of knowledge is. Why do we have this capacity and instinct to know things? And what does it take to fulfill that knowing so that we get on to something else? So there's an end of knowledge. That's called Vedanta. There is a goal of knowledge. What are we supposed to know? What are we to do with that knowing capacity? What is it leading us to? What is supposed to lead us to? That's called Vedanta. To know the Absolute, what you are, and what is the whole purpose of your whole existence, and the meaning of it. And is it just to go on knowing and knowing and knowing, and never knowing anything, never coming to an end of anything, Okay? We're looking for some fulfillment. We're looking for some satisfaction, some completion. But we engage in this, you can call it a cheating activity of knowledge. Cheating us of our satisfaction, cheating us of what it is that we're supposed to know. That keeps us going on, like dangling a carrot in front of the donkey. Trying to eat that carrot, and the guy is driving in with the reins behind, he's carrying this heavy load. That's what we're doing. Okay? We're carrying a heavy load and following this carrot, trying to know my sense satisfaction from knowing, and not knowing what it is that we're supposed to be doing. It's a false knowing, that carrot. We're not supposed to capture the carrot. We're supposed to be captured by the Absolute Truth. It's supposed to capture us. That whole, of which we are part. We must submit to that. That's all. To be a part of that. To be a harmonious, loving, and affectionate part of that knowing, affectionate, and loving whole. And it's not just one thing. If it was just one thing, how did all this variety manifest out of it? Rather, the process is advaita, negating the diversity to regain the harmony and the unity with that one. That one is not, what do you want to say, an undifferentiated one. It's one in which we are all cooperating together, just like a symphony. In the symphony, all the instruments are there, and they're all playing together to create one melody. There's one melody, one song, one beautiful song is coming out. And not that they all play the same tune. And you can't differentiate it between the trombones and the clarinets and the harps and the violins. They're all participating in the harmonious unity without suppressing the difference. The negation of the difference is the harmoniousness rather than the independent playing of each instrument. That you want to negate. That the independence, a sense of independence of every instrument. That only produces cacophony. Everyone's playing their own instrument without thinking about the other. That's cacophony. By playing together, listening to one another, trying to harmonize with one another. That is symphony. Symphony. Symphony comes from synthesis, something like that. The synthesis. Synthesis doesn't mean reduce all variety to nothing. Synthesis means to gather the different things to make them fit into one thing. One harmonious thing. That's what we want. So the whole Vedanta, you'll find many different classes of Vedantas throughout the world. Some are misunderstanding this negation. The single word, their interpretation of what that means. Leave it to our independent natures. Even the word becomes a matter of controversy. Because we all have our own independent viewpoint of it. And as we learn from so many teachers, they present this idea, Vedanta. And there are different schools like that. But this is the one we accept as negation, in the sense of negating the independence, the false independence that each person has, and trying to come to a more harmonious conclusion of existence, of life, of consciousness, of identity, of self. And that way, we can try to resolve the conflicts that we have in our existence. So, very simple thing. Try with your intelligence. Awaken mindfulness, they call it, Your full consciousness working, and your full intelligence working. Try to understand that thing. They're not difficult. When you try to cut out so many different things, then it becomes a problem. But if you open your eye and try to see deeply into the proper way of things, proper understanding of things, you'll see it's very simple and very reasonable. And very fulfilling. Very fulfilling. Don't harm your spiritual life by misunderstanding. So here we practice Bhakti Vedanta. The Vedanta of Bhakti, in which Bhakti, devotion, dedicating yourself, serving the Absolute with love. Where we take the Absolute to be a loving whole, accommodating whole, an affectionate whole, to which we have an affectionate relationship also, of service. That's called Bhakti. Bhakti Yoga means the yoga or uniting with the Absolute through devotion. Love. So, love is the greatest unifying force in the world. Divine love. Partial love of something other than the whole will not do. Some people love to have guns. They love to go hunting. And some people don't want that at all. A different kind of thing. They love peace. They love being nice to one another, not harming animals. So that kind of love for some partial thing will create discord. Only love for the whole, the absolute, will produce harmony. We should misunderstand love. That divine love and ordinary love is not the same. We want to cultivate divine love. That will be all inclusive. Now, we'll have time for some questions and some reading, or however you'd like to proceed. But at first, we'd like to do some chanting. We were just doing some chanting when we came in, but we'd like to do another type of chanting of the prayers, and then we'll get back to discussing. Okay.
Before we go any further, I have a question. Last time I talked to you about perhaps starting to perhaps read Bhagavad Gita.
Okay, we'll do that later. Okay, after the prayers.
No, I'm just asking. Are we going to do that? Because
not right now. Okay.
not right now, but later on.
Maybe we can consider. Okay. So we turn to page 38. We'll do something called Vandana. Vandana is connecting with the Absolute through what in religious terms we call prayer. Prayer means praise or connecting with the Absolute as higher than ourselves. Bhajana. Bhaja means worship. What is higher than ourselves we want to worship. We want to consider that in its proper perspective in relation to ourselves. If it is higher than us, if it is more inclusive than any single person, then we must offer worship or regard or higher regard or honor to that. And to show that kind of honor of that higher, we have what is called vandana, prayer or praise. Prayer doesn't mean, dear God, give me this, give me that, give me the other thing. Prayer means praise. Almighty. Something dear, something that we respect, that we honor, sacred. So this is to bring out the sacredness within our hearts and to express that and cultivate that attitude of humility and the sacredness of the higher so that we can properly align our relationship in the proper consciousness, in the proper heart attitude. Okay? So you laid out the alphabet. This is Sanskrit, and we'll try to read the English also. So you know what this is saying. Even then you may not understand what it means, but so Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Sa Shri Yupam Sarvajatam Sahagana Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadhutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Sakamitham Cha Om Madinati Vinandasya Vinandana Salakaya Sakshurum Nitamina Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha Gurva Shri Guru Bhargavandita Mahabhavam Vithaya Sada Purvapaya Parampara Pracharita Pragya Pramurta Krite Bhaktir Nirmalacharya Nivrittam Samrakshakam Sadaram Vande Shri Guru Devam Mananta Shakka Acharya Payanijam Gova Vishta Sapurukam Guru Ganar Shisha Sambhushitam Chintya Chintya Samasta Veda Vipuram Nirupa Patananadam Govindabhidam Shuklam Varathalam Bhaktyamritam Sundaram Vande Vishwagarum Sativya Bhagavate Gahi Vijapadam Devam Divyatanam Suchandavaranam Balakachilanchitam Sandanadaparam Sadekavaranam Vairagya Vidyabhudim Sri Siddhanta Nitim Shubhati Lasitam Sarasvatanam Balam Vande Tam Subhadam Manekasaranam Yashishwaram Sridharanam Sri Siddhanta Saraswati Vidito Goya Goranvaye Pato Panariga Pravata Kakane Yogora Sankirtanai Maya Bharatim Goragatan Sudrichi Jivaniman Krishna Prema Sudhari Kahan Sukam Prabhasan Prabhum Tambade Namo Gorkishwaraya Bhakti Nartaye Gaurani Padapangaya Radha Bhava Nishedane Vande Bhakti Vinodam Shri Gaura Shakti Swarupakam Bhakti Sastrakya Samrajam Radha Rasa Sudhanidim Gaura Vadrachita Shesha Vaishnavar Vanya Vigraham Jagannatha Prabhu Vande Prema Kribrina Vaishnavam Panchakapatruvyascha Krishna Sindhu Devacha Patitana Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Panchatatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavatara Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakti Shaktikam Namo Mahavananaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Rathishe Namaha Jaitam Suratotpangor Mamamanda Matergati Matsarasvatavadro Aramadana Mohano Divyadrinna Kapadrimana Vishwaradaga Simastanasto Sridhanga Vishwilado Vindadevo Krishna Divya Sevimano Smarami Shrimanvasara Samrami Vamasivata Tatastita Karchan Venu Spada Gopi Gopinate Shri Vistula Vrindaya Tulsi Devaya Priyaya Kesavasya Krishna Bhakti Pradini Satyavata Namo Namaha Atanaparam Guru Guru Bhagavatartadam Vyasam Jagat Guru Natva Tatvajayam Adhiraye Gaya Sattva Krishna Guru Ananya Ladava Govinda Sundapada Padmanam Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Like to read the English? Those who like to participate, you may try to read it if you like. It'll help you. Alright, start from page 30 again, the meaning.
I offer my obeisance unto the lotus feet of my Guru, the predecessor Gurus, the Lord's devotees, Shri Rupa, Shri Sanatan, Shri Raghunath, Shri Jiva, Shri Rupa's followers, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Dev, Shri Nityananda Prabhu, Shri Advaita Prabhu, Shri Chaitanya Dev's associates, Shri Radha Krishna, Shri Lalita Devi, Shri Vishaka Devi, and all of their associates.
I offer my obeisance unto Sri Gurudev, who has opened my eyes, which are blinded with the darkness of ignorance, with the salve of divine knowledge.
I bow my head in eternal obeisance to my Gurudev, the best of Acharyas, Srila Bhakti Nirmal Acharya Maharaj. He is the ever vigilant, stalwart guardian of the current of pure devotion, whose highest form flows from our most worshipable Sri Rupa Nuga Guru Varga in the exclusive dedication to Madhava Srimati Radharani.
Anyone else like to read? No?
Okay. I offer my obeisance unto he who perfectly fulfills his Gurudev's most cherished desires, who is fully adorned with the blessings of his Gurudev's associates, who is expert in all aspects of Vedic knowledge, both conceivable and inconceivable, who is the preeminent follower of Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhu's line, who is known as Govinda, Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj, whose beautiful, effulgent, exalted form is infused with pure devotion, who is the Guru of the entire universe, and who is the giver of the seed of divine love for the Supreme Lord.
I offer my obeisance unto my Lord Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj, whose speech is most pleasing, whose divine form is adorned with garments the color of the newly risen sun, who is an abode of intense, ecstatic devotion, who is the sadhu's sole choice, who is an ocean of renunciation and knowledge, who is the treasure house of perfect conclusions, who is resplendent with pure devotion, who is the best of Srila Saraswati Thakur's followers, who is the giver of all good, who is the leading general of the Tridandi Sannyasi, and who is my soul shelter.
I serve my Lord, who is known as Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Within the Gaudiya Sampradaya's lineage of gurus, he shines like the sun in the morning sky. Through the Sankirtan of Sriman Mahaprabhu, he rescues the souls engulfed within the belly of the Timingala of illusionism, and bestows upon them the ecstasy of swimming in the nectarine ocean of divine love for Krishna.
I offer my obeisance unto the divine form of devotee, Avaduta Srila Gaura Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, who is honeybee at Sri Gaurasundara's lotus feet and servant of Srimati Radharani, imbued with deep love attachment.
I offer my obeisance unto Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, the embodiment of Sri Gaurasundar's potency. He is the king of all knowers of the scriptures of pure devotion, and an ocean of the nectar of devotion to Srimati Radharani.
I offer my obeisance unto my Lord, the ocean of divine love, Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, who is the senior most devotee and worshipped by all who have taken shelter in Sri Navadip Dham and Sri Brajadham.
Again and again, I offer my obeisance unto the Supreme Lord's devotees, who are saviors of the fallen, oceans of mercy, and wish-fulfilling trees.
I offer my obeisance unto the fivefold manifestation of Sri Krishna, known as Panchatattva, his form as devotee, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, his expanded form as devotee, Sri Nityananda Prabhu, his avatar as devotee, Sri Advaita Prabhu, his pure devotee led by Srivas Thakur, and his devotional energy led by Sri Gadadhar Pandit.
Again and again, I offer my obeisance unto you, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, the supremely merciful, golden form of Sri Krishna, the giver of Krishna Prem.
All glory to the merciful Sri Sri Radha Madan Mohan. Though I am lame and wicked, they are my soul shelter, and their lotus feet are everything to me.
I meditate upon Sri Radha and Sri Govinda, being worshipped by their dear girlfriends as they sit upon a throne within a beautiful jeweled temple beneath the wish-fulfilling trees of the divine abode of Vrindavan.
May Gopinath, the beautiful originator of Rasa Leela, who stands on the riverbank at Vansi Vat and attracts the gopis with his flute song, bestow auspiciousness upon us.
Again and again, I offer my obeisance unto Vrinda Devi, who is known as Tulsi Devi and Satyavati, who is most dear to Krishna and who bestows devotion to Krishna upon us.
Having offered obeisance to one's initiating guru, to the gurus who have taught one the meaning of Bhagavat and all the authors of Vedic literature, who are the gurus of the entire world, proclaim Jai.
All glory to the lotus feet of Sri Guru, Sri Gaura Sundar, Sri Sri Gandharva Govinda Sundar, and all of their associates.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Do you think the spiritual world is just an imagination? On this level, that higher level may seem like an imaginary world to us. could there be a world that is full of knowledge, of bliss, and eternal existence? How can there be such a place? That's something we imagine. On the level of the consciousness that we are at now, that's the only thing we can say about it. But that world does exist. And here, these are words praising those who have reached that plane, and who deliver that message, that world, the tidings of that world, you could say, to those who have not yet been able to approach it. So we require Shraddha. Shraddha means faith. The first requirement. You won't be able to make progress into that dimension or that world, that plane, without having faith. Not that we can know everything. Not that we should think ourselves to be able, at our present position, to know all that has to be known. We have to admit that there's something beyond what we know. And how to get there. How can you get to where you can't know about, or you don't know about? How do you get to that place? So we can only do that by hearing. If you've never been to Australia, then how do you know there's no Australia? How do you know there are kangaroos there or whatever? Totally different types of animals that we have around us here. Only by hearing about it. Doesn't mean that because we can't know it directly by our own senses, that it doesn't exist, or that we should dismiss it entirely and say, oh, that's just imagination. At least we hear about it, and then if we're interested to go there, we have to make the effort, whatever is necessary to do that. And it can't just be by knowing it. I have to hear it. Understand? Not by knowing by our familiar experiences. So that plane does exist, and the saints and the sages, they discuss and inform us about that. And teach us also how to make progress. That we can eventually live there. Also, I know that. And it is possible. By the practice of Bhakti Yoga. This is the Ashtanga Yoga. When people are sitting with their legs crossed and arms in particular mudras, their hands, fingers in a particular mudra, and they're meditating. And they're going deeper and deeper in their meditation. First eliminating all the sensuous world, and then eliminating all the bad habits that they have, and trying to understand where the breath is, how the breath is moving, how they are in control of the breath. All these things, and then coming to deeper and deeper senses of the self that is controlling the body, rather than being the body. They recognize that they have some influence on the body. Sometimes we don't realize. Consciousness is such a strange thing, but without it, it's not a force like like electromagnetic force or pushing force that you push on something with. Yet it is the thing that makes us stand up, it makes us walk. You can realize that without consciousness, what would happen? There would be a lump on the floor, right? That force of kind defies gravity. The scientists can't discover where that force is. You say it's the muscles and bones and stuff like that. But they're not why doesn't an unconscious body that has the muscles and bones stand up? Unless it's dead and rigor mortis. When you're unconscious, the whole thing doesn't work anymore. So consciousness is a force. It's a real thing. It's a real being. A cognizant being. Bones are not cognizant. The brain is not cognizant. You can have a brain and a dead body that won't know anything. The neurons aren't conscious. Consciousness is making those things work. It's making those things develop in the first place. So that is a real being, and it has a real action, real influence on things. But what that is can't be understood just from a material level of understanding. So that world does exist. These things are not just imagination, and we have to try to make progress in that direction. If we have a little faith and we have some kind of good intuition within ourselves, we call sukriti in Sanskrit. Those who have the sukriti, that good fortune, to be able to have that intuition that is not unreal. There is such a thing as such a world. And that is within us, and we can make progress toward that, and that is the most substantial thing in all of reality. They can make progress toward that. And that's our goal. That's what we want. That is the Vedanta. That is the conclusion of power, to know those things situated there. Okay? Now, one of the interesting prayers, page 105, is how to recognize our own fallen place in this world and to pray for some kind of help to relieve us of our own condition, to understand first of all our proper position as unfortunate souls. Page 105.
And this is also call and response, right, Maharaj?
I'm sorry?
This is call and response.
Yes, I'll sing it first, and then you kind of sing after me. And it's Bengali, so it's not too hard to find. I mean, it's very, you say it the way it looks, in other words. Okay? Sammara jivanna sadapati rata nahika punyera leisha. Now you sing.
Amara jivana sada paperata nahika punyaralesha.
Parero urvega diachi ekata diachi jivera klesha.
Parera udvega diyashi ekata diyashi jivera klesha.
Nija sukha lagi pape nahi dari daya hina swarta kapara.
Nija sukha lagi pape nahi dari daya hina swartapara.
Para sukhe dukhe sada maitya basi para dukha sukhakara.
Para sukhe dukhi sada mityabhasi para dukha sukhakara.
Ashrisha kamana bhakride bhaje mora Krodi damba parayana.
Asesha kamana hridayam mate mora krodi tamba parayana.
Amada mata sada avisaya modita hingsa garva vibhushana.
Madhamata sada vishaya mohita himsa garva vibhushana.
Nidurasya hata sukhaye virata Arkeyi yogi adi.
Nidralaya atahasa tukare vedata akare udyogi yami.
Batista lagiya satya acharana lobahata sadakari.
Pratistalagiya satya acharana lobahata sadakami.
Ehena durjana sadhana vajita aparadi nirantara.
Ehena durjana sajjana varjita aparadi nirantara.
Sukha karya sunya sadhanartha mana
Sukakaya sunya sadhanardamana Nana lukena jaradara
Vandakye ekana upaya vihina tate dina akinshana
Ardha ekana upaya vihina Tata dina akinchana
Vakati vinoda prabhura charane kare dukha nivedana
Bhakti vinoda prabhure charane kare dukha vinayana
Jivana sarapa pirata nahika punyera lesha
Amara jivana sada papirata nahika punyera resha
Parera udvega diyachi ekata diyachi jivera klesha
Parere udvega diyachi ekata diyachi jivera klesha.
Here, the devotee is praying, I am a very fallen soul, a very sinful. Amara jivana, amara means mind, jivana means life. My whole life is just sin. My life, very life, living, I'm living in sin. Because I know nothing about the higher sacred world. And I'm thinking I'm okay, I'm a very nice person, I'm a very good person, I care about people, this, that, the other thing. I know so many things. But without having knowledge of that true end of our life, that Vedanta, that goal of knowledge, without having any awareness of that whatsoever, and living the life in spite of that, there is a sinful life. There is sin. There is a sin. Like what you say, you never tasted pistachio ice cream? What a sin. Something like that. Like that. You haven't experienced that life. You don't know anything about that. You're spending your life uselessly. That's what he's saying here. Knowing that that world is there, and knowing that we're not experiencing that, not able to, not qualified to, that becomes a problem for those who have that higher sense, that instinct, and that feel themselves not able to enter into that. So basically, all these things are related to that higher world, and everything becomes in a very becomes negatively seen here. My life is as engaged in this kind of sin. There's not a trace of piety there. I have caused others so much anxiety, trouble. I am never afraid of engaging in whatever activities are outside of that higher world for the sake of my own happiness. I'm merciless and selfish, have perpetual liar. If you don't know what the truth is and you're telling people how to live their life or what everything is, you're just lying to them. Okay? So I'm saddened by the happiness of others, and called enviousness, and pleased by the sadness of others, etc. So this is the material world, and how to understand first our actual position here, and then we can understand what it means to go to that other plane. If we think we're satisfied here without actually having that higher knowledge, then it's what's to be done. It's an unfortunate position, and it's not a very holy or wholesome position. Both must be known. We must know whether our present position properly and something of that higher plane in reference to our present life here. And then we can get a proper, some kind of proper conception of where we are, where we have to go, and how to get there. Three things. Where we are, where we want to go and how to get there. These things we have to know. This is education. This is knowledge. What do you think? Are you convinced? Hmm? What question is that?
A lot of times, in seeking the knowledge, it's like the carrot you're talking about. Like, there's this constant, I think for many of us, like this sense of, once I learn this, then I can surrender, then I will truly have this knowing. It's becoming, seems to be becoming increasingly clear to me that the type of knowing of Vedanta is not the accumulation of data. It's not, I guess, it's not the intellectual knowing. It's a different kind.
You mean self-realization?
I suppose.
Because there is a difference between knowing something and then sort of realizing it. Also, like, you might, sometimes you might hear that honey is sweet, but like unless you don't taste it, you're not going to realize it.
Right. We can conceive of, I can understand all of this as true, but there's something that won't surrender in the mind.
Well,
It's like this. Knowledge is not the way to reach the truth. It's there. Knowledge is there, but it's of a different type than the kind that we're searching for something. That knowledge that is there is direct pratyaksha. It's called pratyaksha vagamam dharmam. When you reach there, you'll know it. Just like when you eat a meal, when you eat something, you know you're full. Doesn't require reading a book to learn about what being full means. You know how to digest your food. You don't have to read a book about hydrochloric acid and sulfuric acid, whatever else, enzymes, whatever you're concerned. You're doing it already, huh? You are a member of that higher world. Your knowledge is what's preventing you from getting there. From coming in direct contact with it. You're already there. You're already in direct contact. It is you. But it's just all this knowledge that is clouding up seeing it, just like the mud in a clear lake or a river. If there's all muddy, you can't see the bottom of the lake. So apparently we can't see the bottom of ourselves, the ground on which we are all existing. So somehow we have to get rid of this mind. Not that you become mindless, but you have to become mindful of what is really real.
Maharaj, can you talk about the ascending approach versus the descending approach?
Another thing, we're trying to say something else. Those are different types of knowledge. But we want to, what is direct? How do we reach that? How do we grab it? Without going through all this knowing stuff, philosophy and whatnot. How do you do that? Hare Krishna. You're finished. You're already there. The Absolute is not different from His name. Say, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
What's on force? Conviction.
Like you said it?
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, there. You got it. Huh? Is it difficult?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna is
Krishna.
there. You are there. I say Hare Krishna. That language is from that point, not from this point. When you read the Bhagavad Gita, and Krishna says, Aham sarvasya prabhavo matas sarvam pravartate iti makva prajanti mam bhurku. And that verse, Krishna is speaking. Bhagavad Gita means the song of God, the words of God. Aham, when he says aham, he's saying I. Krishna is saying aham sarvasya prabhavo. I am the source of everything. Everything is coming from me. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matas sarvam pravartate. Everything is depending on me. Even your knowledge of me, your forgetfulness of me, your service to me, your service to other things, all that's coming from me. And if you just accept that as Krishna's word, as he says it is his word. People don't usually come around talking about, I am the source of everything, everything is flowing from me. You ever hear anybody say that? But Krishna is saying that. What kind of bad man is he? And yet people have been reading that book for thousands of years. What is that?
Feedback.
They just have to, like I said, have faith. And you're already through all, the goal of knowledge is already reached. If you were to know everything, you would finally come to this conclusion. And what Krishna is saying is right. That simply by chanting his name, he is present. And you are present with him. And by doing that, what happens when we are present with Krishna? Because he is so wonderful. Because he is so lovable. Because he is so affectionate to us. We begin loving him. We develop our love for Krishna. And that is the highest goal. It's called Krishna Prem in Sanskrit. Krishna Prem, it means love of God. To become lover of God. And once you have that connection, then you have everything. Everything you were looking for. All your desires are fulfilled. All your search for knowledge is fulfilled. Everything. Beat around the bush. It's there. You just have to take it. Krishna is so kind. And his age has given this process. This process of chant the name. Chant his name. If you have faith in that, you'll have it. And if you don't, then you want to try to find out about it, all these things, that's also there. But why go through all that trouble? You know? Tired of that, huh?
It's exhausting.
Sorry?
It's exhausting.
Is it? God sent. Is that what you said?
It's exhausting.
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 Huh?
Exhausting.
Oh, exhausting.
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't hear very well. I'm getting a little older. It happens to you, yes. So, don't tire yourself out. Don't try and be happy.
And that's where the surrender that's where the
That's the
surrender
surrender.
comes in. That's when you can, I guess,
That's
relax
surrender.
and let it happen without fighting
Give up
it.
all these other extraneous things.
Yeah.
Takes a little faith, an open heart, that's all. What is the harm? Learning how to be a loving person. A lover of God. What's the harm in that? To think about so many other things that occupy our existence. What's the benefit of all that? You're not in charge of the world. It's not depending on you. You know? But there is someone in charge. It's not a chaos that we live in. It's a cosmos. Somebody's keeping the planets in orbit, the stars, and whatnot. Yes, there's a lot of suffering in this world. Why? Because people are forgetting. And have forgotten. They accumulate what they call karma. So many understanding, negativity, and all these things that come from our own sinful activity. Don't think it's the world. We're experiencing those things because we need to learn some lesson about the world and to withdraw from all those bad and non-devotional activities, non-loving, finding faults in others. How will we see God in others and everything? How will we see that loving being within everything, that spirit, if we're always criticizing, finding negative faults? Or within ourselves even. That is not where our minds should be. That's coming from bad experiences, bad reactions from other experiences that we engage in a very selfish way. That's what all that is to be done. So we have to give up that life, and gradually we will come to, when we're free from all those sinful reactions, we'll be able to see that joyful life that we are part of. And that's what we want. Hare Krishna. Now we find the devotees who are chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Die. Yeah? What else? What else is new? What else do you want? And there's a whole life that goes along with that. Devotees have their whole life, devotional existence. Eating, sleeping, working, whatever it is they do as a service. They're engaged in their service life. So today we're going to have some prasadam. Prasadam is food that has been offered to Krishna. And then we take it. We don't just eat and not think of where that is coming from. I have been saying that all the science, with all their science, all the scientists in the world together, you put them all together in a big laboratory, they can't make a blade of grass. Can they? Heard of anybody make a blade of grass? No. You can grow from a seed, but you can't make the seed. And despite all our quantum theory and rocket theory and all this other stuff, they can go to the moon, but they can't make the blade of grass.
Even going to the moon is a controversy.
Anyhow, whatever, they're not able to make the most basic things. Food, they're not able to make it. Unless it rains, unless there is seeds already there. We can grow it, but we can't make it. All our science doesn't help us to make it. Maybe able to grow it more richly or whatever, maybe with some different variations. But actually, the life itself is not something we have capacity to produce. So life doesn't come from chemicals, it comes from another life. This we experience, this is scientific. What you observe is what is scientific. Isn't it? You can't give a theory about something that's not observed. The scientists say life comes from molecules or whatever. DNA and this, that, and the other thing. If that's the case, let's see, put the DNA and all these together and produce life. They can't do that. You can't take a bunch of chemicals, mix them up, and then produce something living from that. The only thing that produces life is another life. So life is a fundamental, elemental principle for entity, for being. And that is able to produce itself. That's spirit. Spirit can produce spirit. You can't get it out of dirt. You can't get blood from a rock, they say.
This is the problem because
What is the problem?
we are part, scientists trying to analyze the world objectively would be like your pinky finger trying to analyze you.
Mm-hmm.
Something that's part of, it's the fact that it's part of the thing.
Mm-hmm.
As Alan Watts said, you can't bite your own teeth.
Mhm.
We can't pretend to understand the nature.
Yeah, like a conditioned soul has 4 defects. One is like he has imperfect senses, he tends to be illusion, tendency to cheat, and I forgot what's the 4th one. But the thing is that people, like these scientists though, with their imperfect senses and all, like they rely on their senses, or like, you know, like they're sort of like, I think what they call the scientific method to like do it. But the thing is that, you know, and even like I think Keshav Prabhu mentioned about the ascending and descending process. So I think descending, I think from what I can gather, like it's like coming down from authority, like or a teacher or whatever, or a guru, versus like ascending is like you sort of doing it. So the thing is that even with authority also, I feel like if you're hearing from the right authority, you know, you get the right understanding, the right knowledge. But if you're hearing from like the wrong authority, you sort of get misleaded or whatever. So but from what I understand is that and which seems true to a lot of degree, is that, you know, like it's always best to like, yeah, you might seriously find a lot of like gurus or teachers, or you know, in the world, you know, like sometimes misleading and all. But sometimes like you have to like sort of you know, try to find the right one. And in order to find the right guru, you have to be like, you have to be educated as to who is a guru, you know, like just as gold, you know, like if you don't know what gold is, like you don't. And sometimes like if you go gold looking for gold in the wrong place and you ask what is gold, some people might think like, hey, you don't know what gold is, and you know, like give you like maybe something yellow looking stone or something and say it's gold, just an analogy. So you have to be a little careful as to. But me though, like, you know, like I think I don't know everyone in this room though, but you know, me these days, like even I was also into philosophy and all, you know, going into Socrates, Plato, you know, many different Eastern, Western philosophy, whatnot. But you know, like even then also, like I was like, you know, into so I just chanted Negation mantra for 30 minutes, and then I just went deep into it. And now even if I use my philosophical mind, you know, I use it within the confines of Srila Prabhupada's books and all. I don't seriously do it elsewhere, because if I seriously do it elsewhere, also it also has that tendency to sort of, you know, like go astray, you know, like sort of like get lost, you know, like sort of like when you stop and all, you try to go, like sometimes, you know, you can get misled. So
All right, anything, any other questions? Francesco? What do you think about what we said today?
Thank
Is
you.
it okay?
Yeah.
Ah, makes sense?
Yeah.
Yes? You accept?
and I think
That's sweet. Francesco, what do you say? Huh?
Interesting.
It's interesting?
Interesting.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think I would need a little bit more time for the acceptance part.
Okay.
Fascinating. I think the big question that this gentleman brings up is, who has the truth? And what is the right truth? We all have truths. Which one is right? And that's the thing that creates the kerfuffle in the mind, you know?
exactly.
You can say Krishna, the acceptance, Krishna's here. If I was going to parody that in a religious context, I can look at Christ. Christ also said, I have the word, I am the way. What's the truth? Krishna? Christ? Muhammad?
Well,
Siddhartha Gautama, who has the truth?
Well, from what I've read though, like, is that whether Christ, Krishna, Allah, Jehovah, many countless names of God, like they're all like the names of God. And these religions though, like from what I have read in Bhagavad Gita is that, and what I've read in the other articles also, like I haven't read from start to finish. My mind sometimes is disciplined, so I'll read one chapter, so I haven't read but from what I've read is that, from time to time, there's a verse though that says from time to time, depending on time, place, and circumstance, when there's a rise of irreligiosity, sometimes God sends his sons, prophets, representatives, he sent Jesus down to preach to people in one part of the world, then he sent Prophet Muhammad in another part in another time, then Moses, so it's not like they are also different much from the Vedas though, it's just that they sort of preach according to the time and place. Like even Jesus, I think one time said that, people aren't, he one time said that I have more but you're not ready or something to the people. Because to be honest, he just preached according to what they can seem to understand it, and he preached it in a way that they can understand it. Like for example, Jesus was preaching to people who were like fishermen, not fishermen, or like Muhammad.
Shepherds.
Yeah, shepherds, or like sometimes fishermen, or like those type of people who seriously didn't have like the scientific inclination, like I think you do, he does, I do, so to be honest, like he wasn't trying to be I think too deep for people, because I think we are scientific, philosophical, very deep into. He is preaching to people who could understand it without them seriously having that sort of strong inclination.
Bobby, what if somebody had gold, and you were to ask him, are you a Christian? Are you a Muslim? Are you a Hindu? Would that make any difference? You're interested in the gold. There's no such thing as Christian gold, Jewish gold,
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Hindu gold. Gold is gold. And the truth is the truth. Whoever may have it, whoever may be speaking it, doesn't change the truth. We shouldn't judge the truth in terms of who is pronouncing it, who is speaking it. Anyone can speak. Anyone can have the truth. Krishna came to a Guru. Terry's, anyone. You.
But with certainty I know, in
That's
the
right.
short time that I've been sitting here, Krishna has sold me on something.
I'm sorry?
Krishna
Yeah.
has sold me on something, is that drum and that chanting that we did.
Mm-hmm. That helped
Okay.
you, yes.
Felt that.
Anyone can feel that drum, that beat, they like that.
Yeah, sound seriously get.
Singing,
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah.
Music,
So that-
sound,
that-
vibration.
Music, the vibration, yeah.
Yeah, they reach out to you more quickly than knowledge does.
Well, truth is like
It
that.
affects our fluids.
Yes.
Everything is
Yes.
vibrating. The
We-
sound comes through us.
But like I said, when you're hungry and you eat a meal, you know you're full. You don't have to be told by anybody. I don't think you're full. Sometimes my mother was like that. She would always want to give more.
An Italian
I know.
mother. An Italian.
I know.
They all do.
I'm glad you brought that up, because my background is Catholicism, so I believe in Jesus. And I believe what we were talking about is God is God, it's just everybody just has their version of God. And that doesn't make it right or wrong.
Exactly.
Expression or appetite.
Yeah, just knowing that you know, all of this came from something greater than us. That's, you know.
When I came up in you know, as a child, it was very similar to that drum.
Yeah.
Because everything that we did in our belief system came about by 3 drums. They're called batas in Cuba.
Okay.
So everything that we did first began with the drum. First with the ancestors,
Mm-hmm.
and then the calling down of those vibrations through the process of the drum. And chanting.
It's a universal language.
It's a universal language.
There's no
Yes.
difference, right?
No difference.
Yeah.
It's coming right here.
Yeah, right, exactly.
That's where the beat originates.
That's right, it's inside, yes, comes through us.
But knowing something that like you know, like there is someone greater involved, you know, like in maintaining the universe as God, but sometimes you have to go above that too, because you can't also be stuck in that mode. Like it's like if you want to go to the 100th floor, like you can't you're like, okay, like fine, I got to the 20th floor, it still seems nice down. But if you want to get to the 100th floor, you just still keep on going to 100th floor. You just don't get stuck on the 20th floor, you know.
It's like,
So what's this, I'm sorry, what's this thing called enlightenment then? I mean, who's the guy who talked about it, right? Buddha? And he said he could only go his way to reach that enlightenment. Did he get to the 100th floor, 3,000th floor? Where did he stop
Lord
and where did
Buddha-
enlightenment come from? Is
From
that what you're talking about?
From what I've read, like Lord Buddha had a very complicated purpose. Like the thing is, at the time though in India though people were they were sort of eating meat on the pretext of the Vedas, because in the old times, like before Kali Yuga, people like in the Vedas though, like they would like what these brahmanas would do is that they would from what I've read, I haven't read enough, but from what I've read, like is that they would seriously sacrifice the animals, like sort of like the bodies, like their bodies and all, and then you know, like or maybe if they're almost dead, and then you know they come out they put it in the fire and all, and then they come out in a new body. So the thing is that people, you know, when Kali bit in and all, like people were using Vedas as an excuse that animal sacrifice to eat meat. So what Lord Buddha did was he sort of you know, strayed away from the Vedas because people were using the Vedas as an excuse to eat meat.
Did
Then
did
he
the Buddha
seriously
eat
preached.
meat?
Yeah, what?
Did the Buddha eat meat?
No.
Yeah, I'm not gone that deep, but
He
but the
preached
point is,
non-violence.
yeah, but point is, so he seriously strayed, and then he was preaching, yeah, non-violence also, but he also preached atheism at the same time, because at the time though people, they were atheistic, and plus the thing is that usually though, like meat eating, like sort of is not that conducive to spiritual life. So like so because the meat eating isn't that conducive to spiritual life, so he thought, and he can't seriously preach like straight out philosophy. So Lord Buddha's thing was that, you know, like seriously get people away from meat eating. Then came Lord Shankaracharya, in which he brought it's like he preached Maya philosophy, like covert Buddhism.
So
Yeah.
you asked about Buddha, right? As an example of who has what level of truth is the 300th floor or the top floor. So within the
I'm sorry, I went off
No,
tangent.
you were very nice. Within the cultural perspective, Buddha is seen as one of the incarnations of Vishnu, actually.
Yeah.
And he came, as Avi was very nicely saying, to divert the people, again, by time and place, like Avi said, the time and place, what are the people doing, well, where is their spiritual level at, and how can they be redirected to overcome their limitation towards spirituality and hopefully go in a better direction. So Buddha came to stop their misuse of the Vedas, the holy books that were trying to cultivate true spirituality, God consciousness. And they were using the rules and regulations in the Vedas as an excuse to eat meat, which is, and to kill animals, all this kind of thing, which is not the purpose of the Vedas, because it's taking life for granted, so many things, right? Disrespecting life, disrespecting God, all that. Anyway, so when Buddha came, he wanted to promote this kind of inner knowing, right? Through withdrawing from the senses, this kind of renunciation. It's called a plane of renunciation. And what kind of enlightenment can come from this practice of renunciation. So, I mean, it can't really be talked about too much with language because it is a state of consciousness and it's there and it's one of the truth, one of the versions of the truth we can experience, but it's not the highest truth because it's renunciation. It's renouncing your interaction with the world that you find yourself in on the basis of personal fulfillment. You're going after some personal fulfillment. It's not based on that which is greater than you. You're looking for inner fulfillment, and you're withdrawing what God has given you. You're not using your senses, so you can cultivate some kind of personal, individual inner knowing. It has nothing to do with what is beyond you. So it's called renunciation, which is definitely above exploitation. Maharaj describes, and our teachers have taught, there's exploitation, renunciation, and then dedication. So exploitation is where you're using everything based on selfish purpose, sense gratification. I want to feel good. I want to exploit my environment to feel good. I don't really care about others too much. Or even a better version of that, I care about others. I want to serve other people's interests. But those people are the ones who are having more of an exploitative mentality or something like that. You're serving parts of the environment or you're serving yourself. You're not serving the whole.
Like some people serve like town, city, country, the whole humankind.
Right. And so that's also an exploitation. The renunciation is more what Buddha was getting after. Withdraw from that, cultivate your inner knowing, and you have some level of spiritual awareness there. But beyond that is actually engaging the senses, engaging everything in your environment towards this dedication. This is what Bhakti is cultivating. Dedicating everything in the environment towards God. You have these things, right? We're here in this life, we have certain capacities, right? So we have to use these capacities in the right way. So beyond that renunciation, which is there, which is real, which does have some result, beyond that is dedicating it all to the whole. So now this is why it's considered a higher truth than renunciation, because it's not self-centered, it's God-centered. And it's using everything for that, cultivating that. Now, it has to be done in the right way, and the right way comes through the teacher. What is the right teacher? It goes back to the same question you were asking. How do you know who the right teacher is? So many things. And, ultimately, that's a matter of the heart. No one can say, hey, listen, this guy is the teacher. I don't care what you think. This is the guy. Go to the guy. That's not going to work. You have to feel it in the heart, no doubt. But that's where God is, right? God is in the heart as well as everywhere. There's three aspects to God that we learn about in Veda. One is called Brahman, which is when you hear people say, I'm feeling close to God, this really bright light. This is very impersonal. You can't see a bright light, right? When you look at the sun, you just get blinded with some big brightness. Yet, beyond that brightness is actually the orb, right? A form, the sun's form. Beyond that brightness, beyond that effulgence. So beyond Brahman, that effulgence, is a second level called Paramatma, the part of God that's in every heart and in every atom of existence. Because God is permeating His creation. He's the absolute being. He is not only the creator of that being, but He is the source of it, the destruction of it, everything. He is throughout it all. This is the conception of the absolute, right? There's nothing beyond the absolute. That's what makes the absolute absolute. It is simultaneously different from everything and everything. It's this kind of paradoxical nature. But then beyond that is beyond this aspect of God that is in everything, in all our hearts and all the atoms of existence, is this Bhagavan. Bhagavan is actually the personality of God. Right? It's Sri Krishna. Because beyond the sense of that we're all connected in some kind of vague way, if I have a conversation with you and develop a relationship with you, right? We have relationships with people, we can feel that that's where just substantial feelings start to come. Unfortunately, a lot of the time it's in a mundane context and it's fleeting, right? It comes and goes, but we can feel like a deep connection to another person, right? That's where that deepest connection comes from, the personal aspect. Not hearing about them. Yeah, I heard about Arnold Schwarzenegger, all these things about him, but I don't really know him. Right? I hear these impersonal things about him. I can, oh, he's rich. But I don't know him, right? But if I come to know him, I actually may have a relationship with him. So that's why Bhagavan, the personal feature of God, this is the highest thing, bhakti, devotion, dedication to that highest feature of God, the personal feature. Because this is where all the fulfillment that is misled in our exploitative tendencies finds its highest fulfillment in that dedication, that loving relationship to the personal feature of God. And that's what Vedanta is a bhakti Vedanta. The conclusion of Veda, the conclusion of all of our searching for this, that, the other, is finding its permanent fulfillment here through this process. And it's true, we need to tap into that process, and that's through these saintly people that have been practicing this themselves and are coming from their own teacher, who's coming from a teacher, from a teacher, from a teacher, that is coming from Krishna, actually. That's what Bhagavad Gita is, what we were talking about before. The first guru is Krishna himself talking to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. And this disciplic succession is coming down, student to disciple to guru, disciple to guru, guru to disciple. And that's how we practically tap into that system. It's not just an imaginary thing, like, it's really nice if we can think about God through our daily actions, that's very nice. But even above that is when we can tap into the actual system of disciplic succession, because it requires actual surrender to another individual, actually. Right? It's really easy to say I'm surrendered to God, so I'm going to work and thinking about God, but doing my job, and I'm doing whatever I want, really, I'm just saying it's for God. That's still nice, it's better than not thinking about God at all.
Yeah, that's called being a mixed devotee.
Yeah.
Like still sort of God conscious, but still like having material desires.
Yeah. So then actually higher is coming into the system called parampara. When we can find our right teacher, where we can accept what's being presented, we actually have to surrender to a teacher, a person, who's coming in the right system. Because that's what discipline is, that's what being a disciple means. Disciple means disciplining the mind. How do you discipline the mind? To becoming a disciple. When Guru tells you what is best for spiritual cultivation, you do that. The mind is going to tell you to do so many other things. That's the nature of the mind. It's going to go everywhere else. But disciple means becoming disciplined with the mind through listening to Guru, not listening to whatever your mind is telling you. Because your mind tells you so much, no doubt. But,
Is that guru an individual that you meet for the first time? Or does that guru have anything to do with reincarnation?
I mean, we're all, so as far as Veda is concerned, we were all reincarnated many, 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 many times. So whether the guru happened to be, you knew who they were in a different context in a past life, that might be there, it might not be there, I guess that's a personal circumstance within two individuals. But that's not really what we're concerned with, because then we're concerned with how we can cultivate bhakti here. Whether you knew your guru for 100 lifetimes or this is the first lifetime, it doesn't matter.
And yeah, like even like for example, like with karma also, like which is in addition to reincarnation, though, like for example, people like if they're born in rich families, or like if they become rich later on, like very easily, it's because of like the pious karma they did, because in previous lives they sort of worked did pious things, so they're seriously enjoying that right now. And sometimes people who are born in abject poverty or something, they're there because of bad karma, even though they're good people in this life, So it's like that though. But and according to Bhagavad Gita, there are like 3 karmas. There's karma which is like good. There is akarma which is like impious and all, and then there's akarma, spiritual, like becoming Krishna conscious. Like when you do that, there is no material reactions to it. Like you benefit spiritually. So whatever Krishna conscious activity you do, like whatever, if I'm chanting or if I'm reading Srila Prabhupada's books, also like that's also spiritual activity. So, or following the 4 regulative principles, like no meat eating, no meat, fish or eggs, no gambling, no intoxication, no illicit sex, I mean except for having children. And ideally, children to be God conscious, Krishna conscious, so yeah, so you follow, I mean there's much more to it, it's like Krishna consciousness is like, this is the beginning, like it doesn't end here, it goes even more, like you put the instructions you find in the books in your life, so that's what I know. I'm not quite there yet, but I'm getting there, you know. Alright, thank you.
Anyone? You can ask any more questions here if you have.
So many.
It's interesting to see what your struggle is, maybe others are feeling also.
Perhaps you can read Srila Prabhupada's books and get answers.
How do I say this? Okay. We talk a lot about sort of the peace that comes with this enlightenment, this realization. When you're not feeling peace, what is a good way to not listen to the mind that's causing this state of anxiety, sadness, and focus on the I don't want to say what is the bhakti way to climb out of this state, but I'm curious what, when we are experiencing doubt or anxiety or whatever, what is something that we can sort of hold on to?
Okay, let's say this, the only problem we could ever possibly have, whatever problems that may be, the only problem is forgetting Krishna. Otherwise there's no problem. Krishna doesn't have any problems. And those who are thinking of him don't have any problems. It's only when we forget Krishna that problem comes. Then the problems show up. So, just like the yogi practices to focus on the Brahmarandra, there the connection with the divine is called Ishvara comes. It's only when it gets down into this region that the problems come. And the separation from that. So yoga means to focus on Krishna. If you can do that, and all the other problems will be coming from not doing that. So there's an incentive. When you're feeling a problem, when you're feeling a tension, you understand, I am not thinking of Krishna. That's what the problem is. That's the root of all problems. And there are other solutions. You might find so many other solutions, but they'll have their problems too. Eventually run into it. Krishna is a solution to all problems. So, we're to be remembering him and acting as his servant. It's like we have this body. It's all of his activities are meant to serve you, the I. Krishna is there also. It's the universal I, of which we are all participants. It's like every tree is a tree. They're all participants in that tree, idea of tree, as Plato would say. The idea of tree is also there. The idea is also there. And by participating, cooperating with Krishna, we're not meant to be suffering. No. Krishna tells us, in the Veda tell us, your nature is to be sat-cit-ananda. You're eternal, full of knowledge and bliss in your real original state. If you're not, like I said, if you're not up there, it's a sin. You're committing sin by not enjoying your birthright, by not relishing that which is your highest aspiration, your highest fulfillment. So don't forget. And the best way to remember, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. As soon as your mind wanders into some territory that is not in connected with Him, just bring it back, Hare Krishna. That's why the mantra is there. And the connection with Guru and the devotees and everything in the life that they're living, they help us remain in that connection. By associating with people who don't know anything about Krishna, we fall into that world also. So by keeping our association with those who are Krishna conscious, those who are remembering Krishna, it makes it easier for us also to do that. Otherwise, definitely we'll get carried away into so many other things. And it's also part of Bhakti. Sadhu-Sanga. What you're doing now, this is called Sadhu-Sanga, associating with the devotees. Sat. Sat means truth. We're teaching that truth. We're teaching that. But we are meant to enjoy. Amritasya putra. Amritasya putra. You are sons of nectar. You are the sons of nectarian ocean. Sea. Okay? Why have you turned away from that? You're meant to enjoy nectar. Who wants to be unhappy? Anybody? Why don't we want it? Why is everyone searching for happiness, not unhappiness? Why is everyone searching for knowledge, not ignorance? Why is everyone searching to live, be immortal? To live, go on living, not to die, not to kill themselves. Because we are originally sat-cit-ananda. We are originally eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge. That's our original position. That's why we're desiring it in this atmosphere. It's like a fish trying to live out in the land. That's what we are.
Fish out of water.
We're spiritual. We're spirit. You're meant to be living in that world, not on the dry land of exploitation, material enjoyment. You're meant to be there and enjoying that bliss. That's your natural habitat. And we're in a foreign land now. We think this is our home, but here it's all corrupt. So many disappointments. We can be in our home. We can. It's just a matter of changing your mind, changing your consciousness. But it's not just a mind change. It's actually going beyond the mind, where you don't change again. You know, like that was just a decision I made. No. It's who you are. That you don't make up with your mind. That's not a mental concoction, as they call it. That is your true nature. This Hare Krishna chanting, and not a mental imposition that you have to do this. No. You want to do that. The soul rejoices when it says Hare Krishna. Just like when you said it, a big smile came on your face. And all that weariness left. See? Yeah.
Prabhu,
Wait a minute. What do you think? Is it okay? Now what?
It's funny.
What?
You ask me, then the mind starts
Wandering.
categorizing
Okay.
and
All right, yeah.
like
so,
speculating.
good to catch that. How to catch that. That's yoga. Here's where your practice is going to come in. They're called sadhana. By focusing the mind. That's yoga. Yoga means to link. Yoke. Link. We're trying to link with the higher world. And there's so many energies pulling us away from that link. And we have to eliminate those things. See, in yoga you start with yama, niyama,
Pratyahara.
pratyahara. All these things means you have to you start with the senses, objects, and don't pay attention to them. And try to do the things in the right way, good things. Then try to focus more on your inner heart. Like it's all taking away from all the outer, disturbances and allurements. So yoga requires you to get rid of the outer allurements, bring your consciousness in, into your heart, go into this third eye, and so forth, and the Brahmarandra, and then the connection with the absolute. This is the same thing. This is also yoga. And we're trying to fix our heart and our mind and our body all in the service of remembrance of Krishna. And it's a very nice process. Because you're not required to just renounce everything. You're required to use everything. Use your whole being. And its proper function as a servant of God. So when you want to taste something nice, you offer food to Krishna and then take it. And you'll remember Krishna. When you want to say something about Krishna. Learn the philosophy so you can talk like Adi. About so many different things.
Like for example, like computers, like sorry.
Prabhuji is not
So
here.
nothing you have to be quiet, nothing you have to you don't have to stand on your head and press your nose or anything like that. Okay? Just utilizing everything that you have. Utilizing yourself properly. And don't try to exploit for your own benefit. Try to give everything in the service of God. That's all. And gradually, it's a process. Sadhana begins with what we call sadhana. Sadhana means following certain principles. Chanting a certain number of rounds, eating, offering food properly to Krishna, associating with devotees, other devotees, and doing some type of activity in relationship with the devotees. How do I serve the mission? How do I help spread this knowledge to others? That's one good way of remembering Krishna. Thinking about how to teach others is once I have it, what is it? How can I not give this to, try to give this to others also? That's another way of remembering. Everything can be utilized for remembering. If we are determined, you have to have that determination. To commit to that goal. Christian, this, that, the other thing, that's not doing anything. Guru, all these things, we don't have to remember, we just have to remember what is our goal. And what is the best, what's favorable for getting there. And having a guru is a very favorable way of getting there. They help us. Because we have somebody to take guidance from who is already going on that path. Right? And they can teach us how to think of those things because they have some knowledge of the scripture and they're practicing for some time. They have some experience. I think you can get benefit from that. And their minds are fixed already. So when you're in the presence of somebody whose mind is fixed, you can also become easily influenced and go in that direction. Or if you have someone whose mind is involved in the world, so many worldly things, when you come in contact with them, talk to you about, oh, did you see this movie last week? Or did you, who are you going to vote for? You know, and all these things. They're all important, but not, well, they have some significance, but that's not the most important thing. That's not going to help you in your spiritual concentration, your spiritual focus. Okay?
Do you find when you're cooking meals or cleaning the house,
Yeah.
do you find, I mean, I think that's a great time if you're gonna chant to chant, but is that what you find that you do when you're doing these activities?
Yeah, of course. when your heart is focused, everything else will follow. Whatever you do, you'll always be going in that direction. Doing it to help go in that direction. You won't engage in those activities that will take you away from that. You want to engage in those activities that will bring you closer to Krishna. Whatever it may be, you offer that. You're taking care of your house because you want it to be a place where you can remember Krishna. And the householders, we recommend having a picture or something like that, an altar, so they can offer everything, their food or whatever, to Krishna, and start their day off like that. Offering a little incense not only purifies you, it purifies your house. And so you know, this is a place where I offer everything to Krishna. Like a little temple. You make a house a temple, you can make the heart a temple. And that's very nice.
Yeah.
And in India we find that. You'll find everybody has a little altar, they offer their incense, they offer their food. They're very nice, Vaishnavas. And they're very humble, respectful of others, and try to see Krishna everywhere and in everyone, and how he is the real controller and the provider for everyone, and the enjoyer. And they read the Gita, they go to they hear from the sadhus, and they respect the sadhus, they give charity to the sadhus. Like this. They understand everything very nicely, in a very simple way, and natural way. And their lives are very joyful.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but we're at the mercy of Parchment.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you stay for some
have some
prasad?
prasad, yeah.
Oh, you're gonna.
We're gonna have it, yeah, we're gonna have a
on the way
little,
back down there?
little something.
I'm sorry.
3 hours.
Excuse me.
3 hours, right? Normally.
It's out though.
Oh.
Give me some waters.
Okay. Should come back.
Are they coming back?
It's nice to be young.
You have to go to the bathroom or something?
No, we just,
She's just going to change
she's just
the
gonna-
meter.
Oh, I
And
see,
then they're gonna-
okay.
I guess she
She
found
has
this,
the date for that?
this conversation
She
interesting.
wants to come back.
Yeah.
She wants to come back.
You see the nature of the mind, like, you know, like our mind seriously is like sometimes like when we live here and all that, plus our mind also sometimes like, you know, even if we are sometimes at least like, you know, our mind goes here, there, like, I'm not saying that I'm not commenting on your situation, I'm just saying like, you know, like sometimes mind goes here, like, like, you know, like, what am I, like, you know, sometimes it's like if there's some place they're thinking about the future, like, you know.
Yeah, I think my reasoning is like $3 versus like $30. You see, that's my mind right now.
Yeah, I know it can be
That's,
that.
that's a little tough, you know?
But I'm just commenting on the nature of the mind. I wasn't seriously
We're about
commenting
to
on your
have some prasadam anyway. This is the part of the event now where Maharaj is about to wrap up.
No,
But we're
I
gonna
mean,
have,
if there's anything more you wanna cover, that's also very it's food for the soul.
Yeah.
Whenever
Sure.
conversation you have in relationship to what we're doing, we'd like to hear that, and then we'll have some prasad at the end, yeah. Very nice prasad. What do you think? I haven't heard from you.
Everything is in pieces, and I'm still trying to put everything together because
What did she say?
everything still is in pieces and she's trying to put it together.
Oh, okay.
I think reading the books will piece it because all we are doing is discussing many different topics at once. So to be honest, like sometimes the mind, like you know, like is at many because the mind sometimes though like isn't focused because it's going on many different topics. Like I wasn't seriously particularly commenting, but sometimes I was like, even if I seem to think that everything is ready in place, though, like I might be thinking like, hey, like what am I going to do, you know, before sleeping at night today, for example, you know, or maybe what am I going to do like 2 weeks from now, or what am I going to do 10 years from now, or how is my life going to be like before I die, you know. Like sometimes like people have what they call like I just the other day I remembered a word, it's called existential crisis also.
Well, this is the thing, Bobby, that I was telling you, that all those things are not important. A devotee never thinks about all those things. What's gonna happen, what's my future, he doesn't think about that. He thinks only about one thing, what is that? Huh?
Krishna.
Ah.
But
What do you
sometimes
think about? If Krishna wants me to die in 5 minutes, no problem. It's his will.
but you have to
If I
remember
have a heart
Krishna, though.
attack in the next minute or so, great. If that's what Krishna wants.
As long as
And
you
if he
remember
doesn't
Krishna.
want that, I don't want it to happen either, but that's up to Krishna. I can't determine what's gonna happen in the next minute, right? Some earthquake may come, and we're finished, we're all crushed. Now what?
But me in particular, what I'm concerned about is becoming a pure devotee before I die.
You can't say that. And you can't- That's up to Krishna also. You can.
Mm,
And
it's
who,
actually
who is
it's two
thinking
ways.
about liberation or becoming Krishna conscious? That is called prakrita sadhana. Materialistic devotee. Yeah, this is material. You want to be a pure devotee, you have to give up all these concerns.
But Prabhu,
And
it's the
simply say,
stages.
I trust you. I'm in your hands. That's surrender. That's surrender. I'm in your hands. You know, when Prabhupada came to this country from India, he was an old man. And he came on a freight ship. He didn't come on a passenger ship. He was coming on a freight ship. And he had a heart attack, by the way.
Several heart attacks. On
But he, you know, he wrote this prayer, beautiful prayer. He said, you know, I don't, he didn't have any money or anything. He was coming here, you know, how the heck he was going to survive? Nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
And he knew that his teacher told him, you should go to America and preach Krishna consciousness. That was his only thing. That's what his mind was fixed on that. What his guru told, he took as Krishna's will, what Krishna wanted. And that was his only point of reference. And he said in that prayer, he said, Krishna, you may kill me or save me as you like. You may kill me or save me as you like. That's not my concern. Therefore he was called Abhay Charande. His name was Abhay Charande. You know what the meaning of that is? De is the Bengali word for God, like Deo. Deo, you know, and what is it, Latin? Deo is God. And you know, in India, De, God. Abhay Charande. Charan means feet. Charande, at the feet of God, at the feet of the Lord. And Abhay, you know what the meaning of Abhay is?
Assurance.
Fearless. His name was fearless at the feet of the Lord. That was his name. And he demonstrated that in his life. Whatever you want to do with me, that's yours. And he suffered a heart attack, 2 heart attacks. He never lost faith in that. If this is what God wants, I'm ready to accept it. And it's funny, not funny, but it's a miracle. After those 2 heart attacks, then the sea became very calm. The rest of the trip became over. It was like a month-long trip. And here he was, like 77 years old, something like that. He didn't have, he had a couple of rupees with it.
Actually,
Maybe
he
a
was
dollar
like 69.
when he
something.
got here. He went to stay with someone who had been recommended him, and they weren't even vegetarians. But they were very nice to him. And they said, you can have your food on this part of the refrigerator, we'll keep our food on that part. And he never complained. He never made any demands on anyone.
Yeah, he was humble.
And they were very they said, they asked them after Prabhupada had gone all over the world, some devotees went to that place and asked those people, what is the thing you most remember about Prabhupada? And they said, he was very kind. He was such a kind person. Made no demands on anyone. So that kind of, this is one of the qualities of a person who becomes devoted to the Lord. One of the first qualities. Karunika, very kind, merciful to others. So, anyhow, so there's so much wealth here in these teachings, in this life sort of lifestyle, if you want to call it that, whatever. And being who you are, there's so much wealth in that that we have as our birthright. And yet we turn away from that. And we become mean to one another, selfish, thinking about ourselves in so many ways that make us unhappy only. Because we're not thinking of the right thing. Isn't it?
But initially though, in the initial stages, like when we are materially conditioned or our hearts are materially contaminated though, like you don't think, you're not at that quiet stage of pure devotional where like you're like, where a pure devotee is like no matter what, like even if he takes birth after birth, like You know, like he's like, as long as he can remember Krishna, he's good. Whether he takes birth in heaven
that's
or
right.
hell,
That's right.
you know.
Hey, my devotee prays, even if you want to send me to hell, no problem.
But he,
I'm ready to go to hell.
yeah.
But I only want one thing. I'd like to remember you.
So it's a stage to come. Like you don't just come overnight. Some people might be able to,
Well,
but
you know,
it's not. It's a stage to strive to the highest, but you don't come
it's funny,
at it overnight.
when I was younger, about 12 years old or so, I read something from one of the Christian saints. It was a prayer. A very simple prayer. And I was so impressed by it, I thought, wow, this is a perfect prayer.
What was the
And the prayer was, grant that I may love you always, and then do with me what you like. That was a prayer. He wasn't praying for, dear God, I want a nice wife, or I want a nice big house, or a lot of money. That was his prayer. Grant that I may love you always, and do with me what you want. And that's what I heard in the Vaishnava literature, the same thing.
Yeah, Lord Chaitanya.
Lord said, you can send me, even Mahaprabhu said it himself.
Yeah, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
You can crush me by your embrace and make me broken hearted by not being. You're always my Lord. Always my Lord, unconditionally. That's called unconditional love.
There's a Sufi saint, Rabia Basra, and she said, Allah, if I pray to you for heaven, deny me heaven. If I pray to you for fear of hell, send me straight there. But if I pray to you for you alone, if I pray to you for your sake alone, deny me not your eternal splendor. Probably butchered that.
Yeah, it's okay. Like sometimes, like our memory is like a shadow of what we have read. You know.
Yeah.
Like a shadow, because
What's her name?
sometimes you have to.
Rabia Basra.
Yeah, meaning is,
Basra.
I think whatever you said, the meaning is coming to the same thing. Desiring the ultimate. Yeah, instead of only desire and heaven, she's desiring the ultimate God.
Krishna doesn't want us to do anything else but remember him. He wants to have a direct, personal relationship with each and every one of us. He wants that. That's what he wants. I wonder what God's will is. That's his will. That's all he wants. And he's allowing us to forget him because that's what we want. And he has enough love for us that he allows us to do what we want. But it's not what he wants. He wants you to love him and have the relationship with him. And there's your satisfaction. There's where you'll find your true wealth and fulfillment. But if you want something else, ye yatamam prapadante tam satam vijanyam. It says in the Bhagavad Gita, I will give you what you want according to your desire, according to your surrender to me. If you want to surrender to me, you'll have everything. If you want to not surrender to me, you'll have that level of existence that you desire. I leave it up to you, because it's based on love, not on force. Not that says, you must love me. Gives you freedom. Because if love is forced, it's not, and if it's mechanical, it's not love. Love must be spontaneous. Spontaneous, causeless. Not be based on any motive.
Reminds me of that saying that if you love something, set it free.
Huh? What did she say?
It's I forget what
If
how
you
it
love
goes.
something,
Set it free.
Oh.
And then
If they come back, then you have.
It was
then you
meant to
love
be,
it. If they
yeah.
don't, then it never was there, right?
I mean, like you were talking about Krishna, you know,
Yes.
it's like if you love something, set it free,
Yes.
and
If they come back to
it
him,
was meant to
then
be.
they know it's real.
Yeah.
That love is real. And if they don't come back, then there's only an artificial thing. Huh? Again, superficial. Hare Krishna.
So you want to say about the Mahamantra, what is meaning?
Mahamantra.
What?
So this mantra that we were chanting, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, did you see it? Did you get a paper? Did you
And then
get a
even after we were done.
this is the mantra we chant. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
And Mahaprabhu, his picture is here. He came to give this mantra in this present age in which there is so much
Strife, quarrel.
so much fighting, so much confusion, so much ignorance. Okay. No, he knows. He has enough in his long life to understand this age of Kali is not a very happy one. And there's not much spiritual, incentive, let's
Yeah.
call it that, in this age.
Like there's an ocean full of faults.
And so Mahaprabhu, understanding the situation that this age is called Kali. There are different ages that the universe goes through, just like the summer, fall, winter, all those seasons. The whole universe goes through different seasons. And the present season, the present age of the universe, is called Kali Yuga. And at this time there's much fighting, disagreements, ignorance, and so many things going on. So practice yoga, practice mental equilibrium, and all those things are very difficult for us. So you just don't worry about doing all those things. Just take this mantra and chant this mantra. You can do that much, you'll get much benefit. You get all the benefits of practicing yoga, offering sacrifice,
Yoga, sacrifice, and deity.
deity, worshiping the deity of that in the temple. You get benefits from all that just by chanting the Maha Mantra. So you take this mantra. Whenever you need to, or whenever you feel inclined to, chant. And like I said, whenever you're feeling your mind is being distracted, you can chant. Try to refocus and try to live your life gradually with the remembrance of Krishna. And when you need help, come here. If you need guidance, come. Whatever we can do to try to create a life in which that becomes part of it, part of your practice. Essential part. Okay. Thank you very much for being so attentive.
Thank you.
So interested. Yes, it was very nice. You're a very good group, good souls. So nice. Well, I think maybe we should stop now. Well, I'd
Yeah,
like
we
you
should.
on for a long time, but I think we should stop now and maybe have some prasad.
Yeah,
Krishna Kesha made some nice food and offered it to Krishna for us to honor.